Hi, and welcome to part 3 of the FracToniX Arrangement and Accompaniment course. In the last part, we started building the intro section of our track. In this part, we'll continue to develop this intro, and we'll create a transition and a build-up from this intro through the breakdown and into the first drop section of the track. And we're going to do this by adding some variation to the beats, adding a few elements of sound design, and also focusing on creating this build-up right here. Okay, now I've made a few tweaks to the project since last time, so I'll just quickly cover those now by playing through the whole project, and then I'll focus on the specific elements that I have changed. Okay, and that's our intro as it stands. Now, you'll notice that all of the beats are the same. I haven't changed anything here. We've still got our kind of plucked sound. That's still the same. The pad's pretty much the same. Okay, now the two new sounds that I've added here are basically just a couple of presets that I found on the ES2 that I thought kind of suited the feel and the kind of atmosphere of this track and just helped to enhance it slightly. So this sound here, I think that one's just called Basic Dance, and I don't think I made any tweaks to that at all. I think that's just as it is. I added a sample delay to widen it, and I also added a low pass filter so I can filter it out as we move into the breakdown. I've also added some parallel distortion, a long delay, stereo delay, and a long reverb as well. The other main element that I've added is this chord stab. And it's just quite a soft chord stab that just sort of adds to the atmosphere of the intro. You know, it gives it more of a sense of time and rhythm as it's leading in over that very empty section over the first 8 bars. And again, that was just a preset on the S2. I tweaked it slightly. It was more of a major chord. I basically just detuned oscillator 3 by 1 semitone to make it into a minor. Finally, the last change that I made to the intro was I just stripped back a lot of the content that was happening in this section here, this breakdown and build-up section, just so that we've got a nice big gap where we can start building in those drums as they start building up. And to help carry that section through, ready for where that build-up is about to happen, I extended the length of the note on this pitch full bass here and caused it to rise up again, creating almost a mini build-up, which will lead straight into our first kick drum of our kick drum build-up, if you like. So I'll just play that one in isolation so you can hear that. You notice this automation here is on the low pass filter cutoff. That's basically bringing the filter right back up, so opening the sound up, making it sound like a crescendo, making it sound really dramatic. Okay, so this sound on its own. Then we've got our kick and our crash again. Okay, so our intro is almost there. We've got all of the melodic elements, we've got all of the kind of synth parts down, which are going to hold it together, develop it, and keep building that atmosphere and keep building that identity. What we need to do now is start adding some kind of sound effects, just to kind of give it even more atmosphere. And the cool thing about the sound effects we're going to create is sound effects that you can use in any tune, and they're also sound effects that we're going to be able to use in other parts of this track. Okay, now the first bit of sound design that I want to do here is create like a really deep, booming impact sound. And we're going to use this impact sound to accentuate these sections here, where we have the beginning of the track, possibly where the beats come in, where the breakdown starts, where the build-up starts, and at other points where we need atmospheric sounds in the track, like the breakdown and the outro. Okay, so to create this impact sound, I'm going to use the same kick drum that we've used in our beat. And I'm simply going to zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing, and then duplicate the track. And I'm going to call this kick impact. I'll solo this new channel so that we can hear it in isolation. And I'm going to copy the original kick without the automation data across to this channel. Okay, so the raw material is the kick. As for the effects on this channel, we can keep the compressor and we can keep the EQ, because we know that they work well with the original sound. What I am going to do is remove the low cut. We may add a low cut in again afterwards, but for now we'll remove it. Next, I'll add a reverb, and it needs to be the highest quality reverb we have, so we use the Space Designer. It's important that you go for the highest possible quality of reverb, especially when you're doing this kind of thing. Okay, now if I play the sound back with the reverb, you know, it's already, we've got that kind of characteristic, we've got that big booming tail. Now I wouldn't mind using something slightly longer, so maybe I'll go into large spaces, go to Hall, maybe choose something which is around 4 seconds long. Try the Stream Hall. Okay, that's about the right length, that should do. What I'll also do is take the dry level down to about -10 dB, just so that we're focusing less on the original kick sound and more on this boom tail. Remember, we're still going to have the original kick playing. Okay, so finally we just need to filter out the high frequencies, and we'll do this using the low pass filter that we looked at in the previous part. Low pass filter, turn up the order to make the slope steeper, and play it back. Already that's deeper. Let's take it down to about 200 Hz. Okay, that's good, that's just a deep boom. Like I said before, I might just have to add a low cut just to be sure that all of the unwanted frequencies below 30 Hz are filtered out. Okay. Okay, and that's basically that impact. I mean, there's loads of other things you can do as impact sounds to make them sound a lot more interesting, but for the purpose of this, that'll do the job. So I'll just play that with all elements of the track. Okay, so it's very subtle effect, but it just helps add that extra bit of atmosphere. I'll just chuck another one here just so you can hear how it would sound 5 bars in. Okay, really nice dramatic sound. So I'll just position those in various points where I think they probably suit. So at the start of the beat, and then possibly at bar 17, maybe another one at bar 25, definitely one in the breakdown, and we'll have another one as the build-up begins. Okay, so we'll just listen to how it sounds in the breakdown. Okay, so it's just helped fill out the bottom end and giving it that nice tail, which is going to help us with the transition. Okay, and that's a really simple bit of sound design that you can use in your own tracks. Okay, so next I want to create a couple of sweep patches on the ES2. Now these sweep patches basically just going to help us once again glue everything together. You know, they just help stick everything together in the transition sections. So what I'm talking about here are kind of falling sweeps and rising sweeps. You might hear them called down sweeps, you might hear them called risers, you know, when you look through different sample packs. Okay, so add a new instrument, and we'll call this one down sweep noise. And the reason for that name is it's going to be based on white noise, and it's going to sound like it's sweeping down. So I'll stick with the ES2 again. Reset the patch to default. Take the level right down. And this is another really simple bit of sound design. I mean, once again, you can take these a lot further by applying lots and lots of different effects, but at this stage, I think we'll keep it quite simple. So we don't want oscillator 1 because we don't have noise on that oscillator. We use oscillator 3. You'll notice that one has got a noise setting. If we move the mix over to oscillator 3, you can hear that noise. That's the kind of effects that we want. Okay, so that's given us our white noise. That's our raw material. And what we need to do is choose a filter type and sweep down through that via an envelope. So a low pass filter would be useful for creating a rising sweep, but in this case we want to create a falling sweep, and I think the best filter to create that kind of sound is a bandpass filter. Now the bandpass filter is only available on filter 1, so we need to move the blend across to filter 1 and then select bandpass. Okay, and I'll just demonstrate how that would sound. Okay, so you notice it's nice and bright to start off with, and gradually filters down almost to silence. So to automate this, we'll use envelope 2. Okay, it's the attack section of envelope 2 that we're interested in. Just as a starting point, I'll set it to about 5,000 milliseconds, so about 5 seconds will be the initial sweep time. Then we can tweak that afterwards. In the modulation matrix, we'll use this block here because we're not using it for anything else at the moment. And we'll set this to cutoff 1, and we'll leave the source as envelope 2. And then we need to just drag the modulation amount down to -1. Okay, and that's having the right kind of effect. I think I'll just turn up the attack time just to make it a bit longer, maybe about 7,500. And a few other tweaks. I'll turn on the unison just to make it a bit wider and fuller. Notice how much wider that instantly makes it. Also add a slight amount of resonance just to make the sweep a bit more dramatic. And then finally maybe add an effect like a chorus or a flanger. Okay, just a subtle, slow flanger will do there, I think. And I'll try this one just at the very start of the track. So create a new region here, and just draw one note. It doesn't matter what key it's on because white noise doesn't have a central frequency. It's the whole frequency spectrum. Okay, we'll maybe set that to 4 bars in length just to start off with. See how that sounds with the rest of the track. Now I think that could be a little bit longer, so we'll just go into the synth again, tweak this attack section, put that right up to 10,000 milliseconds, and try that again. Okay, and that's it for that sound. And the next sound that I want to create is basically going to be the reverse of that. And the reverse of that's going to create a kind of rising sweep instead of a falling sweep. So basically just duplicate that channel, and we'll call this one rising sweep. Just to keep things quick and simple, we can copy the same region across to this channel. Okay, now we need to make sure that this note plays at the right point within that region, so that it's playing from the last kind of quarter of that region up to the end of that region. So we'll just move that note right to the end. And also, I probably don't want to bring it in quite so soon in the intro. I'll probably save it for this section here, so that we've got a nice rise building up into the breakdown. Just by leaving the loop on, we can have it happening again around here, which will coincide nicely with our build up into the first drop, and I think then we'll give it a break for a while. Okay, so I'll show you how that sounds. Okay, so we get that nice kind of build up, and then we drop down again with that other sweep. Also coming into the drop, now the final kind of transitional sound that I want to create here is going to be a pitched rising effect. So once again, I'll just duplicate this channel, and we'll call this one pitched riser. And I want this one to happen only for the build-up section. And I'll just label that one up again. So we need to transform that white noise into something with a pitch. Okay, and to do this, we go into edit our patch, and first of all we need to set a different oscillator type. Maybe we'll go for a sawtooth, just so we've got something quite harsh to work with. Okay, so to create this pitch rise, we go to an empty section of the modulation matrix, we select pitch 1, 2, 3 in the top box, and our source is going to be envelope 2, and we set that to +1. Okay, so this note, I think we could probably make it a fair bit longer. Okay, now it needs to be a little bit shorter so that we avoid that drop at the end. So let's try this. Okay, what we could also do is just draw in a volume curve. Maybe start at silence at the start of the note, gradually build up. Then just to give it a bit more interest and a bit more texture, we could apply some delay. And also add some reverb. See how that sounds. Okay, let's play through the whole breakdown. Remember, we've added the kick impact sound, the down sweep, we've got the rising white noise sweep, and we've also got the pitched riser. So let's listen to that all together. Okay, cool. So we're starting to get those transitions there. It's starting to make sense as a breakdown and the build-up.